Hello there, welcome to Kakaaki, the African Voice on Africa Independent Television, AIT. My name is Kunle Adewale. Great to be with you this Monday. It's the very first day of June 2026, and of course, the very first edition for the month, the 6th month of the year. Well, let's take a look at what we have for you this morning. The world's global institutions appear to have devoted these times to issues affecting global health. Yesterday, that's the May the 31st, was observed as World No Tobacco Day, an annual observation established by the World Health Organization, WHO, to draw global attention to the health risk of tobacco use and advocate for effective policies to reduce global consumption. The theme for this year's World No Tobacco Day is unmasking the appeal, countering nicotine and tobacco addiction. The focus is on how the tobacco and nicotine industry reinvents and repackages its products to hook new generations and aims to expose the deceptive use of sleek packaging, sweet flavorings. Nigeria has a huge tobacco smoking population and has over the years posed a significant public health and economic challenge affecting millions of people despite regulatory efforts to control consumption, as an estimated 30,000 Nigerians die annually from tobacco smoking-related ailments. Recent data estimates adult smoking prevalence at roughly 2.9% to 3.6%, amounting to approximately 3.3 to 3.8 million adult smokers nationwide, while globally an estimated 40 million adolescents aged between 13 and 15 use tobacco products. Over the years, a number of non-government organizations, NGOs, have waged campaigns to the authorities in attempts to bring down the tobacco smoking numbers. But as the figures suggest, it's been with limited or no success at all. One of such organizations is the Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, whose executive director, Akimbode Oluwafemi, is a no tobacco smoking campaigner, having received awards for his efforts. He's our guest on Kakaaki this Monday, and of course, one of the questions we'll be asking him is how he got the award, with the smoking prevalence still quite high. Akimbode will join us later on the program. We'll also be focusing on this year's theme for the World No Tobacco Day and its relevance to the Nigerian situation. Now let's go to our second talking point for this Monday. 1st of June, and it's World Milk Day too. World Milk Day is an annual global event established by the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the United Nations in 2001. It aims to celebrate the vital role that the dairy sector plays in global nutrition, food security, and agricultural livelihoods. The theme for this year's World Milk Day is celebrating women farmers, promoting fresh milk consumption for a healthy nation. This theme highlights the indispensable contributions of women and youth to global dairy production, food security, and rural economic development, because if you're located in Nigeria, it's worth noting that the dairy sector has seen major attention around this year's celebration. But Nigeria has its fair portion of milk production and consumption shortages. For example, despite the large number of cows across the country, an acute shortage of product storage facilities and other bottlenecks have led to large amounts of unsold dairy products destroyed. How can this problem be solved? What deliberate policies need to be introduced to make milk business more profitable and get Nigerians to consume more milk? Joining us to answer these and other questions this Monday is Victor Egbo, Director Ruminant and Monogastric Development at the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development. He is also the chairman of the ministry's World Milk Day Planning Committee. Also weighing in on the discussion is Mohammed Abubakar, the president of Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association of Nigeria. So that's the outlook for our conversations this morning. But don't forget that you also can be part of the program by sending your views and comments to all our social media handles on Facebook, on X, Instagram, and YouTube, where you find us at Africa Independent TV, so you can stay up to date with the latest news from around the globe. For now, let's take a break. When we come back, it will be time for the Kakaaki World News. Thank you for staying with us on Kakaaki, the African Voice. This is the World News. You are welcome. The Lebanese Health Ministry says the death toll in Lebanon from Israeli attacks has risen to 3,371 after Israeli airstrikes and drone attacks across southern Lebanon late from Friday into late Saturday killed dozens of people and wounded several others. The Israeli military says it captured the strategic site of Beaufort Castle in southern Lebanon in what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu described as a decisive shift in its offensive against Hezbollah.
The Israeli Defense Forces said on Sunday that they are carrying out strikes on Hezbollah's infrastructure in the southern Lebanese city of Tyre and several other areas. It comes as ground troops move deeper into Lebanese territory beyond the original demarcation line of the Litani River. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said he instructed the military to deepen and expand its grip on Lebanese areas held by Hezbollah. The instruction followed the capture of the Beaufort Ridge, including the strategic castle at its summit in southern Lebanon by Israeli forces, an area beyond the security zone Israel has maintained since the ceasefire took effect in mid-April. Netanyahu said the current objective is to consolidate control over the captured positions, calling the seizure of the Beaufort a dramatic stage and a dramatic shift in the policy they are leading. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz said the Israeli army will remain stationed at the strategic Beaufort Castle as part of the security zone. Katz also said that taking control of the castle and expanding ground military operations sent a message to the opponents that whoever threatens the citizens of Israel will lose their strategic assets one after another. The negotiations between the military delegations of Lebanon and Israel in Washington, D.C. on Friday failed to reach a ceasefire agreement. Lebanon's prime minister has accused Israel of carrying out collective punishments.
Colombia is heading to the polls to choose a new president. The election is being held after months of public recrimination between current left-wing President Gustavo Petro and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump over a number of issues, including drug trafficking and American intervention in the region. The outcome of the election could redefine which countries the Latin American nation aligns itself with and how government intends to tackle drug gangs amid spiraling violence.
The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, said in a recent report that armed conflicts in Colombia last year had affected civilians the most in a decade. Colombia's presidential hopefuls have campaigned amid persistent political violence, with one candidate fatally shot last summer. Last week, De La Espriella appeared at a rally in Medellin behind bulletproof glass. He and Valencia have expressed a desire to restore Colombia's close security alliance with the U.S. The capture by U.S. forces of Venezuela's former president, Nicolas Maduro, in January has left Petro, one of the region's few remaining left-wing leaders, not ideologically aligned with the Trump administration. Trump has accused Petro of not doing enough to prevent cocaine from his country winding up on America's street. At one point, Trump even called him a sick man who likes selling cocaine to the United States and said he could be the next for U.S. military intervention. Petro has argued his government has seized the largest amount of drugs in history. But on his watch, cocaine production has also soared to record highs, according to the United Nations World Drug Report 2025. Petro disputes the UN's method of counting. The two presidents, however, appeared to have mended their relations at a White House meeting in February, after which Trump called his guest terrific.
Ethiopia's general election will hold on Monday as conflict rages in parts of the country, meaning many people will not be able to vote. The whole northern region of the country, which has been trying to recover from a brutal civil war that ended in 2022, has been totally excluded from the poll. With a population of 135.9 million people, Ethiopia is Africa's second most populous nation after Nigeria and one of the continent's fast-growing economies, according to World Bank estimates. This is despite the ongoing insecurity in regions such as Amhara and Oromia, the hangover from the Tigray War, and the rising cost of goods and services. The election board says more than 50.5 million people have registered to vote, and despite the conflicts and political tensions, many young and first-time voters say they hope the election will bring stability. Deputy Prime Minister Temesgen Tirune, who comes from the Amhara region, where voting has already been cancelled in 30 out of the 137 constituencies, told local media in March that the ruling party did not want to win everything this time around. About 219 people have been injured in clashes between football fans and police across France after Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, won the Champions League final against Arsenal. 8 were in a serious condition. Interior Minister Laurent Nunez said thousands of officers were deployed to curb unrest that disrupted a bus, train, and rail services in the capital, Paris. 57 of them were injured. Nunez said 780 people had been arrested over the violence, with more than 450 in custody. One person was found dead after an accident on Paris's Ring Road, which rioters tried to block overnight. Some 6,000 police have been mobilized for Sunday's victory parade, which has begun. Scenes around the site of the Eiffel Tower on Sunday appeared jubilant and peaceful as the parade got underway at about 6 p.m. local time, with fans lining the streets to cheer PSG players and staff. The celebrations include touring the Champ de Mars next to the Eiffel Tower and a reception by French President Emmanuel Macron. Earlier, the Interior Minister said the security forces will be firm in their response to violence. An explosion has killed at least 55 people and wounded dozens more in a village in a region of Myanmar, which is under insurgent control. A source familiar with the situation on the ground in Kaung Tat, a village in Nam Kam Township in Shan State near the Chinese border, said 25 women and 30 men had died. Other reports gave slightly different casualty figures. The source added that rescue teams were searching for and extracting people trapped beneath rubble. The Tang National Liberation Army, TNLA, which controls the area and which has been engaged in bitter fighting with Myanmar's military junta, said explosives used in mining and quarrying had exploded. Residents described a sense of devastation and confusion following the explosion. Children were among the dead and hundreds of homes had been damaged, affecting almost an entire neighborhood. The first volume of selected works of Xi Jinping, the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee, CPC, on the rule of law has been published in English by the Central Compilation and Translation Press. Compiled and translated by the Institute of Party History and Literature of the CPC Central Committee, the volume brings together the most important and fundamental works by Xi on the rule of law from December 2012 to February 2025. The English edition is expected to provide international readers with a deeper understanding of Xi's views on the rule of law, as well as the historic changes and achievements made in building socialist rule of law with Chinese characteristics in the new era. Several African ambassadors have recently hailed the China-Africa cooperation as this year marks the 70th anniversary of China-Africa diplomatic ties. Interviewed by China Global Television Network, CGTN in Beijing, Egyptian ambassador to China, Khalid Namzi, said bilateral ties have made a qualitative leap. Attending an event marking this year's Africa Day in Beijing on Monday, diplomats also spoke highly of China-Africa cooperation in various fields. According to Cameroon's ambassador to China, Martin Mpana, Chinese people and African people share the same views and the same aspirations. Iran's Islamic Revolution Guards Corps, IRGC, said on Sunday that 28 vessels, including oil tankers, container ships, and other commercial vessels, had safely passed through the Strait of Hormuz over the past 24 hours after obtaining permits, and with the coordination and security provided by the IRGC Navy. The IRGC emphasized that the Gulf is a waterway belonging to the countries of the region and that the aggression and disruptive actions of the U.S. military are the main reasons for its insecurity, recently adding that the smart control of the Strait of Hormuz is being carried out continuously, resolutely, and effectively. Iran's main military commander, Qatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, said on Saturday that the Iranian armed forces are exercising management over the Strait of Hormuz with full authority. Making the remarks, I beg your pardon, in a statement, the headquarters stressed that for passage through the waterway, all vessels, including commercial ships and oil tankers, are required to solely travel through the routes designated by Iran and obtain permission from the IRGC Navy. The headquarters warned that Iran's armed forces will respond to any action by military vessels to interfere in the strait's management or disrupt traffic through it. Iran tightened its grip on the strait beginning February 28 when it barred safe passage of vessels belonging to or affiliated with Israel and the United States following their joint strikes on Iranian territory. A medical charity organization has warned that the rapid spread of Ebola in the Democratic Republic of Congo has created a deeply alarming situation. Speaking 2 weeks on from the outbreak being declared by the World Health Organization, WHO, MSF Deputy Director Dr. Alan Gonzalez said never before had so many cases been recorded so soon.
Made the remarks during a visit to Ituri province in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, a region's hardest hit by Ebola outbreak, where he assessed ongoing efforts to contain the virus. The DRC has recorded more than 1,000 suspected Ebola cases and at least 246 deaths, while neighboring Uganda has confirmed 9 cases and 1 death. He noted that disease containment efforts and the delivery of humanitarian assistance continue to face significant challenges, including border and airport closures. The WHO has reportedly warned that the persistent conflict in parts of the DRC is severely hindering the response to the outbreak. The WHO chief called on affected communities to take a more active role in combating the disease, stressing that local residents have a deeper understanding of the challenges and are best placed to contribute to lasting solution. Ebola is transmitted through direct contact with the bodily fluids of an infected person, including blood, vomit, diarrhea, saliva, urine, semen, and sweat. The virus can also spread through contact with contaminated objects such as needles, beddings, and clothing. Patients diagnosed with Ebola require isolation and supportive hospital care, including fluid replacements to prevent dehydration and treatment to manage symptoms. During his visit, one of the first stops was the National Institute for Biomedical Research laboratory in Bunia, where samples from suspected Ebola patients are analyzed. According to the local health authorities, the laboratory can now deliver test results within 24 hours, ending medical teams to rapidly confirm infections and begin treatment.
Back in Nigeria, President Bola Tinubu has approved the recruitment of 1,000 forest guards in Oyo State and ordered the deployment of a specialized security unit to rescue pupils and teachers abducted from 3 schools in Orire local government area. The victims were kidnapped on May 15 from Community Grammar School, Baptist Nursery and Primary School, and LA Primary School in Esiel and Yawota communities. A federal government delegation led by Femi Gbajabiamila visited the affected communities on Sunday to convey the president's concern and reassure residents of ongoing rescue efforts. Other members of the delegation included Nuhu Ribadu, Tunji Disu, Christopher Musa, and Sunday Dari. Gbajabiamila stated that President Tinubu had directed security agencies to deploy all necessary resources, including intelligence-led and carefully coordinated strategies to ensure the safe return of the abducted pupils and teachers. The delegation also promised to relay the community's request for a military base to the president for consideration. They later visited the palace of Oba Gandhi Afolabi Olaoye and paid condolences to the family of Mrs. Mary Oyedokun, a teacher, the widow of a teacher who died in captivity. The federal government said the measures demonstrate its commitment to rescuing the victims and strengthening security in vulnerable communities across Nigeria. The Department of State Services, DSS, has arrested 5 suspected armed couriers, including 2 foreign nationals from Niger Republic, linked to the November 2025 abduction of nearly 300 students and staff from St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri, Niger State. According to security sources, the suspects were allegedly supplying weapons to the gunmen responsible for the attack. Among those arrested were Yusuf Mohammed, also known as Baturi, a wanted member of the Boko Haram terrorist group, and his associate Mubarak Ibrahim, who were intercepted on the Zaria-Kaduna highway while attempting to collect a consignment of arms. Subsequent operations led to the arrest of Goni Ibrahim, an international arms courier from the Difa region of Niger Republic, and his accomplice, Tukuru Sani. Security operatives recovered 15 AK-103 rifles, 15 magazines, and 1,434 rounds of live ammunition concealed in their vehicle. A 5th suspect, Alhaji Adamu, also known as Gado Banufe, believed to be a major arms supplier in the Kebbi axis, was later arrested in Yauri, Kebbi State. Investigations indicate that the suspects played key roles in supplying weapons to the gunmen who attacked the Catholic boarding school on November 21, 2025. During the attack, more than 250 students and teachers were taken into the Kainji Lake Reserve Forest, although about 50 children escaped. The federal government and Niger State authorities later confirmed the successful rescue of all remaining captives on December 21, 2025, with no student left in captivity. The Legal Practitioners Disciplinary Committee, LPDC, has suspended a lawyer, Obidike Callistus Ikechukwu, from legal practice for 5 years after finding him guilty of professional misconduct. The committee, chaired by Ishaq Bello, ruled that the lawyer unlawfully enforced a court judgment in a property dispute in Karu, Abuja, despite a valid stay of execution and a pending appeal. According to the LPDC, the lawyer proceeded with the enforcement, leading to the eviction of the property owner and his family in January 2019, even though he was aware of the court order preventing such action. The committee also noted that a later suit filed to validate the execution was struck out, with costs awarded against the lawyer personally. After reviewing the evidence, the LPDC held that his actions breached the rules of professional conduct for legal practitioners and amounted to infamous conduct in legal practice. As a result, the committee ordered a suspension from legal practice for 5 years, effective February 26, 2026, stating that the sanction was necessary to protect the integrity of the legal profession, uphold respect for court orders, and maintain public confidence in the justice system. The national leadership of the All Progressives Congress APC has been urged to uphold justice, fairness and transparency in handling the outcome of the party's senatorial primary election in Delta North. Senator representing Delta North Senatorial District, Ned Nwogo, made the call in a statement amid ongoing disputes arising from the primary election. According to the senator, any attempt to overturn the outcome of the exercise would amount to a subversion of the mandate freely given by party members. He alleged that efforts were being made to replace genuine votes with what he described as manufactured figures promoted by his opponents. Nwoko maintained that he won the APC senatorial primary election across Delta North by a wide margin, claiming to have secured about 123,000 votes, while former Delta State Governor Ifeanyi Okowa polled approximately 6,000 votes. The lawmaker cautioned the party against actions that could undermine the wishes of thousands of APC members who participated in the exercise, warning that such a move could negatively affect the party's fortunes in the district. He therefore called on the APC National Working Committee and the party's national leadership to protect the integrity of the primary election process and ensure that the mandate given by party members is respected. Nigeria's sweeping educational reforms have introduced data-driven systems and skill-focused curricula. Yet, systemic funding gaps and execution bottlenecks remain formidable challenges. Amid these are the relentless armed assault on schools, abduction of students, and the unending threats to quality education. Our special report explores the critical policies deployed under President Bola Tinubu's administration, the drawbacks, and why the president has more work to do to ensure education becomes the engine room of national development.
3 years after President Bola Tinubu assumed office and with Tunji Alausa driving the vision at the Ministry of Education, the administration is pushing structural shifts. The government recently launched the Nigerian Education Data Infrastructure (NEDI), a tech-driven initiative integrating school and examination data into a unified database linked to national identity numbers (NIN) to curb identity fraud and credentials cheating. Alongside this is the implementation of the National Skills Qualification Framework to institutionalize vocational learning. A comprehensive curriculum overhaul followed next. Subjects from primary to senior secondary levels have been revised to strictly embed digital literacy, artificial intelligence, that is AI, and entrepreneurship. To ease the financial burden on citizens, the government introduced a reusable textbook ranking policy and explicitly banned elaborate graduation ceremonies to stop schools from imposing extra charges on struggling parents. In another major policy pivot, the ministry announced that mathematics is no longer compulsory for specific tertiary courses. Concurrently, candidates seeking admission into colleges of education and national diploma in agriculture programs have been exempted from the Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination (UTME) to expand institutional capacity. However, unresolved friction and fragile agreements with the academic staff unions in tertiary institutions continue to strain government relations.
We're talking to the non-academic staff unions, namely SANU, NASU, NAT, and other ones. What we want to do is that we don't want to do this in an haphazard manner that's been done in the past. We wanted to give Nigerians the best agreement that will keep our tertiary institutions open in continuum.
Furthermore, the national budget allocation for education hovers below 8.2%, failing to meet the 15% UNESCO recommendation. This funding deficit directly limits the impact of interventions for vulnerable learners. Despite official efforts, roughly 75% of children aged 7 to 14 still lack basic foundational literacy, leaving the country's out-of-school population a massive unresolved crisis. While the Universal Basic Education Commission (UBEC) is attempting a rapid rollout of smart classrooms, the initiative is severely restricted by widespread electricity deficit, poor internet access, and a lack of proper teacher training in rural areas. Compounding these structural limits is a severe shortage of qualified teachers, a crisis worsened by unsecured school environment, kidnappings, and direct attack on both tutors and students.
Previous successive governments have not invested in infrastructure upgrades, even hiring of teachers, providing instructional materials. But this government will change that. We're doing extensive infrastructure upgrade now. We've gotten some approval from Mr. President to recruit teachers. We're doing a lot of teacher professional development. We've also using modern day technology to do teacher professional development by moving their content digitally, where they can go within the comfort of their houses, within the comfort of their classroom to do their teacher professional development.
In the 3 years of Tinubu administration, there have been over 24 attacks on schools and about 900 number of students adopted. The latest being the young students of Orire in Oyo State, southwest Nigeria. Perhaps the biggest achievement NEL Fund, cited by the administration, is the Nigerian Education Students Loan Fund. Data from the agency says it has processed loan applications of over 1.7 million students, out of which 242 billion has been disbursed to over 1.3 million students. While this has been hailed as a success, it hasn't been without allegations of fraud by the body and some tertiary institutions. As the Tinubu administration marks another year in power, public expectations remain high for the government to aggressively close funding gaps, ensure quality delivery, and match its bold policies with sustainable implementation. Abulu Osemahu, UIT News, Abuja.
That's the World News on Kakaaki, the African Voice. Thank you for staying with us. Don't go away. We have more reports for you on Kakaaki Business.
Welcome to Kakaaki Business. China's factory activity stalled in May as new export orders contracted and input costs kept rising. An official survey showed on Sunday, adding to concerns, the world's second-largest economy is losing momentum despite pockets of strength in services and high-tech manufacturing. The official Manufacturing Purchasing Managers Index dropped to 50 from 50.3 in April, matching the forecast in a poll of economists and straddling the 50 mark, separating growth from contraction, according to a survey by the National Bureau of Statistics. It was the lowest reading in 3 months and followed data earlier in May showing China's growth momentum cooled in April despite a rebound in exports. Supply improved while demand weakened as the sub-indexes for production and new orders came in at 51.2 and 49.9 in the manufacturing survey. New export orders fell more sharply, dropping to 48.6 from 50.3 in April, heaping pressure on policymakers to reduce the economic reliance on overseas demand and strengthen domestic consumption. Weakness in the property market, employment and consumer spending continues to dampen growth, leaving China reliant on global demand to absorb goods produced by its manufacturing sector. China's government has vowed to address the supply-demand mismatch and has set a less ambitious GDP growth target for 2026, allowing room for reforms. India will cut its export duty on petrol, diesel and aviation fuel for the fortnight starting June 1, its government said in a statement. The duty on export of petrol has been set at 1.5 rupees per litre, while that on diesel has been set at 13.5 rupees per litre. The statement said, export duties on ATF have been set at 9.5 rupees per litre. The rates have been revised on a fortnightly basis and are based on the average international prices of crude oil, petrol, diesel, and ATF during the period since the last review. There is no change in the existing excise duty rates on petrol and diesel cleared for domestic consumption. The U.S. and Mexico trade negotiators over the weekend concluded their first bilateral negotiation round to revise the U.S.-Mexico-Canada Agreement on Trade, discussing automotive rules of origin, steel and aluminum trade, and economic security. The U.S. Trade Representative's Office said the United States concluded discussions with the goals of reducing the trade deficit with Mexico and strengthening America's supply chains. The trade agency said that the two sides will continue to advance their discussions on June 16 and 17 in Washington, D.C., in talks covering agriculture and a level playing field. A third round is scheduled for the week of July 20 in Mexico City, but so far the talks exclude USMCA partner Canada. And the United States trade deficit in goods contracted more than expected in April as a surge in exports blunted rise in imports. But the economists cautioned that trend was unlikely to be sustainable, with businesses ramping up investment in artificial intelligence. The advance report from the Commerce Department suggested the 3-month US-backed war with Iran, which has disrupted shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, had yet to have a significant impact on the nation's trade flows. The artificial intelligence spending boom is largely dependent on imports, including computer chips. The goods trade gap narrowed 3.4%, or $2.9 billion, to $82.4 billion last month. The economists polled had forecast the goods trade deficit would be $86.5 billion. Goods exports increased 4.0% to $219.7 billion. There was a 7.5% jump in exports of capital goods. Consumer goods exports shot up 7.8%, while exports of industrial supplies, which include petroleum, increased 2.1%. A strong increase in petroleum exports is expected in the month ahead because of the Middle East conflict. The U.S. is a net oil exporter. Export of motor vehicles and parts fell in April, as did those of food, feed, and beverages. And in Nigeria, unreliable power supply is continuing to take a toll on Nigerian businesses, with firms losing an estimated 3% of their annual sales to electricity outages, according to the African Development Bank's African Economic Outlook 2026 report. The report revealed that frequent power disruptions are forcing businesses to spend heavily on alternative energy sources, particularly generators, increasing the cost of operations across the country. According to the AFDB, more than 70% of Nigerian firms now own or share generators, one of the highest levels of dependence recorded among countries surveyed. The bank noted that beyond losses from interrupted production, businesses are also burdened by additional expenses on power generation, water supply, security and logistics services that are often provided through public infrastructure in more developed economies. The report described this extra cost as a hidden tax on businesses, warning that they continue to increase the cost of doing business, reduce profitability and slow economic growth. The federal government has begun implementing pension harmonization for eligible retirees under the defined benefit scheme managed by the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, PTAD. The reform, which takes effect from May 2026, replaces the previous method of calculating pensions based on the salary structure in place when individuals retired from service. Under the new arrangement, pensions will now be computed using the last approved salary structure before the defined benefit scheme cut-off date. The Executive Secretary of PTAD, Dodilope Odunaya, described the reform as a major step towards eliminating inequalities in the pension system and improving confidence in pension administration. She said the policy will ensure that retirees with similar rank, grade levels and years of service receive comparable benefits regardless of their retirement date. The harmonization applies to eligible federal pensioners across retired to various pension departments, including some retirees who transferred from federal to state government service. And that's Kakaaki Business. Good morning.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. That was Kakaaki Business, bringing you the latest in the world of business from across Nigeria and, of course, the rest of the world. Let me introduce my tag team partner for this morning, Adora Sydney Jack. She's here, of course, joining me to make things happen this morning.
Absolutely. Good morning and happy 1st of June, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the 1st of June. I know you're particular about June.
No, am I? Why would that be?
Aren't you?
Good morning, everyone.
Women and birthdays.
I don't know what he's talking about, but anyway, it's great to see you all from the side of the show.
We'll get to see how that one works out later. Anyway, let's get back to the business of the day and take a look at something that is, of course, very, very prevalent at this time of the year, especially looking at the fact that 2027 elections, general elections, are very close right now. And in what looked like a new twist to the internal crisis within the Accord Party over leadership tussle, the Professor Chris Imolem-led faction of the party conducted its own presidential primary ahead of the 2027 general election. Now, our correspondent brings you details of this and other concluded primaries across the country.
Leaders in other states across the country converged on Ikeja, Lagos on Saturday, where they affirmed Chris Imolem via a voice affirmation. He was later issued with the party's flag as the presidential candidate.
In every party, you see, after primary election, you have district here and there. So what we have done is sort of a district committee that is looking into that. And I believe before the end of today, we should have a resolution on that.
In Rivers State, the Labour Party has officially concluded its party primaries for all elected positions, adopting a consensus-based approach to select its candidates. For the first time, the party is set to field candidates for every legislative seat in the upcoming general elections.
As you can see here today, there are no dissenting voices, so you can see how united we are. And once we are united, nothing can break. And that's why I said we are going out there to launch up for victory. We are not going to tell stories.
In Kaduna State, the Nigeria Democratic Congress, NDC, has also concluded its House of Representatives and House of Assembly primary elections. The exercise followed the inability of aspirants in some constituencies to reach a consensus during earlier consultations.
Ladan stepped down for the judge. So that one is very peaceful in the local government. We want to go together by grace of God.
The National Democratic Congress has concluded its primary elections in Arochukwu local government area of Abia State, producing unanimous victories for all its candidates amid what party officials described as a peaceful and transparent exercise. The returning officer for the NDC primaries in Arochukwu, Okereke Rechukwu, formally declared the results, announcing victories for the party's candidates across all elected positions.
We have been there before. I've been in the House of Representatives for 8 years. That is 2 terms. And you can see the overwhelming support because of my activities in the Dane House of Representatives. And I'm sure they're very eager to see the good things, coming up again.
And in Benue State, the Labour Party has affirmed Matthias Beyon as its governorship candidate for the 2027 general elections. Accepting the nomination, Beyon thanked party members for their overwhelming support and outlines plans to diversify the state's economy, prioritize security, amongst others, if elected.
As journalists, you can agree with me today. You have massive turnout of people affirming me as a sole candidate for governorship for Labour Party in Benue State.
And lastly, the Zenith Labour Party, ZLP, has officially concluded its national convention and primary election in Abuja. The party unanimously elected its national chairman, Dr. Dan Wayawo, as its consensus presidential candidate for the upcoming 2027 general elections at the weekend in Abuja.
Who told you that I have lost primaries or I'm shortchanged? I cannot move and look for another vehicle. Who told you that? It's my freedom, it's my right to associate. But when they were making that law, they didn't remember the Constitution. That's why I said anybody that has failed primaries, anybody that has lost, you have opportunity to contest in any party of your choice.
You know, when you listening to that report, I couldn't help but also remember that one of the news items on the world news this morning was about Senator Ned Nwoko asking the national leadership of the All Progressives Congress, which is the ruling party in Nigeria, to ensure that justice is done concerning the Delta North senatorial primary, which he claims that he won by a landslide against the former governor, Ifeanyi Okowa. And that points to the fact that there are still some problems with internal party democracy in the run-up to the 2027 general elections. And one thing that is clear is that the political parties are actually meant to be the bedrock of democracy. So if you do not have primary elections held within the parties without so much complaints, so many complaints, so much of disagreements and protests here and there, then you begin to ask yourself, how far have we come in 27 years of democracy? Some people like to refer to it as simple civil rule.
There's a sense of desperation around the 2027 election, and I don't know what it is. Again, the allegations of selectocracy and candidate imposition by, the godfathers, the elites of the club, the governors. I don't think it's just, Ned Nwoko is just one case, out of many. Because, you found that there were cases of allegations of perhaps lack of transparency in certain primaries, the ones that are held in Ekiti, under the APC, under the PDP, under the ADC, under the NDC. You saw, over the weekend, we saw the level of back and forth on the allegation of lack of transparency in the ADC, primaries, which of course gave reason to another candidate emerging for the FCT senatorial ticket under the NDC, which Aisha Yusufu has come out clearly.
I was actually thinking about that too.
Clearly to refute. But she says that the party, unity of the party, supersedes all personal demands. And at this moment, the bigger picture is to look at the presidential candidate of her party. However, she has also come to see the systemic rot within political parties and the need to actually look at that as the beginning of the sanitization of our democracy. But beyond that, Mr. Kunle, I think that one thing is clear. The people who make up the political party are human beings. And I think that the political parties in itself cannot be flawed without the human beings who manage the affairs of the party. So again, it is to look at, the leadership selection, the structuring of the party. And at the end of the day, who is the political party for? Is it for, like you said, the aspiration towards gaining and building a democracy that works for people? Or is it for self-aggrandizement? And at the end of the day, like they always say, the political parties are only vehicles of interest for politicians, but it must mean more.
Well, the law says that it's political parties that contest elections, not candidates. So it is the candidate that the party presents that will occupy whatever elective post that the party wins. That means that whoever has control of the party can't decide who gets into those elective positions. And that has been the case over time, right from, I think, 2020 to 2003 general elections, not 2023 now. And these are worrying events, really, because when you take a look at it, if we cannot get internal democracy within the political parties right, how do we get the larger thing and get it right?
So who are those getting it wrong in the political parties? Is it the chairman, the governors, or?
I don't know if you can get me to say that, but they know what is wrong. The politicians, the political class, they know what is wrong and they know how to correct it. It's all on their table to resolve at this point in time, to ensure that it's not just about the politicians, but it's about the people.
But indeed, it's a shame because, this primaries actually saw at least majority of the women with experience exude out of the process. But just about 1.2% of women barely made it back through this present primaries. And there will be an audit where political parties will tell us really where the women are on this ballot.
Well, we're going to leave political matters for now and bring you our social intervention segment. Don't forget, 7 a.m. will be time for the newspaper review.
And welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Dolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Hello again, Dolly Phillips here for your 1-minute workout. I hope you're ready. Today's workout is fun. You're going to slide and touch the floor. Slide and touch the floor. Are you ready? Your time starts now. I'm going to move with my left leg. Slide and touch. So right leg goes out, and then you step back to the other leg. Slide and touch. Let's go. Slide and touch. If you can't touch, just send that leg back for me and reach for the floor. Come on. Touch. Move this body. If you want to jump across, that's also okay. Yes? Like you're jumping over a puddle. That's it. Come on. If you can touch the floor, push your body. Push your body to go the extra mile. How many seconds left? 25. Come on, let's work. Yes. Push this body. Work those hamstrings. Work those lower half muscles. Where are your hamstrings? The muscles at the back of your thigh. That's where we're working. Come on. 10 seconds left. You've got this. Push. Woo. I can feel this one. 3, 2, 1, and time. That was awesome. Well done. I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye.
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today, I'll be speaking on setting clear goals. Most people don't achieve their dreams because they never turn them into goals. The reason why a lot of people never accomplish their dream is simply because of the fact that they never turn those dreams into goals. A dream is, I want to be successful. And a goal is, I will earn 10 million naira by December 31st. That's what a goal is. A dream is, I want to lose weight. A goal is, I will lose 10 kilograms in 90 days by exercising 4 times a week and cutting sugar level. Do you see that? That's what it is about. Dreams are vague, while goals are specific. And you can't hit a target you can't see. So how do you set clear goals? First, make them specific. Second, make them measurable. How would you know you have achieved it? You need numbers. That's where numbers are important. Third is you make them achievable. but challenging. If the goal is too easy, you won't grow. Find the sweet spot. That's what we're talking to you about here. The fourth one is make them relevant. So let the goal contribute to moving you towards your bigger goals or your bigger visions, as the case may be. And the fifth one is that you have to give them deadline. A goal without deadline is just a wish. When exactly would you accomplish this? That's the question you must ask yourself every day. Imagine if everyone who is leading today can understand this. Number 6, write them down. Goals in your head remain as dreams. Goals on paper become a reality. The 7th is review them daily. Whatever you focus on grows. Read your goals every morning. Don't say I'm too old for this. I'm telling you the truth. It works like magic. Vague desires produce vague results. Clear goals produce clear outcomes. So set a target and go for it. That is exactly what leaders are made of. I have seen a lot of leaders in today's world that have been able to set powerful goals and they have kept focused on them. They delayed gratification. They pushed and fought their way through until those goals came alive. I'm a living example of what we're talking about here. So the idea literally is to do everything possible for you as a person to develop the principles of always getting things done. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man doesn't have a purpose waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why your child doesn't understand your face language? Now, this is a funny and debatable topic. Some people feel it's best to tell the child what you don't want or what you mean in public, irrespective of whether the person you're visiting will be hurt or not. While some others think that the facial communication is still a good way of communicating with your child without others around noticing. I remember in my young days, my mom had different facial impressions to communicate with me when we were in public. Now, a friend of mine told me recently that her son never understands her facial expressions. And I jokingly said to her, please reduce your heavy makeup. But frankly speaking, facial expressions between you and your child in public is a good one. Now, there are times you think that your child is talking too much. You could establish facial contact with your child and do this. What if your child is about to collect food from a stranger, no matter how many times you have warned him or her not to? You could do this. What if you want your child to leave a place or you're ready to leave? You could simply do this. Now, just form whatever facial impression that you want. Your child needs to understand your body and face language. Likewise, you should understand his or hers. And for effective facial communication, work out and practice different facial expressions and agree with your child. Make it so much fun. And remember to remind your child that it is a secret code. It's a secret code. Facial communication also bonds you and your child, and it also keeps your child in check, and it's so much fun. So let the fun begin. Honestly, that's my 2 cup.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figure, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
Governments seem to be incapable of protecting the scheming.
This is not a period we should play by and go. Every part of this country is important.
The intrigue.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights. From Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries, town halls that lean on data and research, we raise the bar. Gender Agenda, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on AIT and on AIT's YouTube channel live. My name is Adora Sidney Jack, and this is Gender Agenda. Gender Agenda. Women rising.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Proven that the election peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the President.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
GTBT, whatever.
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is in need for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata-wise, revenue strata-wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape.
Thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to bring you the newspaper review this morning. And yes, sorry for standing a bit behind the schedule, but we have our guest here with us. Dr. Lemi Hebwe is here. And of course, Chris Wando will be joining us virtually. Good morning. Hope we had a great week.
Good morning, Dr. Obiwe. And good morning, Chris.
Chris, if you can hear us, we are waving to you from this side. Good morning. Great.
You have to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
Aha, that's it. You're welcome. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, good morning.
All right.
How was the weekend?
Oh, well.
Short.
It's like one of my former colleagues used to say, well spent.
Happy New Month, by the way. Yes.
Nice one, nice one.
All right, let's look at what the papers have for us this morning. And we're starting with the Daily Asset. Its own headline says, Oyo abduction. Tinubu orders full-scale action after 16 days of agony. Riders coming in this manner: Ribadu Musa Disu, Badabi Amila lead presidential delegation. President approves 1,000 forest guards to reclaim criminal hideouts. You'll find details of the story on page 2.
All right, let's look at the Observer's Times and looking at DSS NABS 5, including 2 foreign collaborators linked to Papiri school kidnap. Recovers large armed cache, 15 AKs rifles, 1,434 live ammunition, and that's the rider below that lead story.
That's the same story that the Authority has on its front page this morning different way of casting the headline, though. DSS nabs foreigners linked to Papiri school kidnapping. And the writer say recovers 15 AK rifles, 1,434 live ammo. The story flows to page 2, right from the front page.
All right, the authority has been there. Then to Inquirer, Abuja Inquirer talks about 16 days after schools abductions, federal government delegation visits Oyo. Tinubu approves 1,000 forest guards, deploys special rescue team. And that is what you look at as the lead story.
The blueprint goes in the same direction. Oyo school abduction. Tinubu deploys tactical rescue team. 1,000 forest guards. And the writer says delegates NSA, IGP, Defense Minister Gbajabiamila, others to kidnap sport. Makinde urges cooperation. APC kicks. The story flows from the front page to page 8 of the paper.
All right, let's also look at the Standard Times this morning. Oyo abduction. Tinubu approves 1,000 forest guards, deploy special rescue team, considers military base request. And that's the lead story there. And it's coming to you front page of the newspaper.
Let's go to the Daily Global. And that paper has that same headline there. Oyo school abductions. Tinubu deploys 1,000 forest guards. Tactical rescue team. That's the top story there on the front page of the paper. And just above the masthead, you have that one there. Army rescues 92 kidnapped civilians in Borno, neutralizes IEDs.
Okay, let's look at Nigerian News Direct this morning. We see there just below the masthead, Islamic cleric famous for identifying which is murdered in Kwara community. That's on page 22. But there you see the front page. I think that's them telling us about promises delivered under the Renewed Hope agenda. But that's not the lead we're focusing on. We're focusing on Tinubu approves 1,000 forest guards, deploys special rescue team. And that's talking about the Oyo school abduction.
This Nigeria is the next paper we're looking at. It moves away from the Oyo abduction when we're talking about the main headline. The main headline this morning for this Nigeria says 2027, the battle ahead. Tinubu, Atiku, Obi, Jonathan, Makinde, Honor, others emerge candidates set to lock horns. Main issues for voters, economy, security, jobs. But talking about insecurity, the paper does not shirk its responsibility to also highlight this. Two headlines there, just beside the masthead. DSS arrests 5, including foreigners, over Papiri kidnap. You find that on page 5. And at the bottom of the page, FG deploys a special rescue team over Oyo school abduction. Parents urge caution as president approves 1,000 forest guards.
All right, let's look at other papers this morning. And the Business NG says 2027 race begins as parties unveil presidential candidates after INEC deadline. And there you see the picture story of the men there. Fortunately, no women spread out there, but we see from the president to Showere amongst others. And that's the lead story.
The Daily Sun is the next paper. Its own top story says Atiku shops for VP candidate in Southeast, South. And the writer says court to hear Nafi Bala's case against Mark Aregbesola.
All right, and Nigerian pilots, illegal mining, 15 Chinese docked. NSCDC arraigned 15 Chinese, 9 Nigerians over illegal mining of lithium in Nasarawa State. They were arrested on May 16, 2026 in Kokana local government area, accused of engaging in activities contrary to Section 8, subsection B of Miscellaneous Offences Act and others.
Disclosure News is the next paper, and its own headline goes this way. Hardship. NLC demands 1 million naira minimum wage, rejects proposed 100,000 naira monthly salary. And the writer says cites several economic factors. Federal workers threaten indefinite strike over insecurity on paid wage award.
All right, let's look at that Daily News Craft says crisis looms, workers threaten nationwide strike, demand sovereign national conference, NGF pushes for 100,000 minimum wage. They deserve 1 million naira NLC, and that's what you find. Below that, some political story. My nomination as LP's running mate, call to serve Nigeria, Kwakwanso, on page 10.
Now, the New Telegraph is the next one we have, and just above the masthead is where you have all this news headlines this morning. Federal workers threaten nationwide strike over insecurity, wages. The riders say rejects governor's 100,000 naira consideration, insists on 1 million naira. Oyo abductions, Tinubu approves 1,000 forest guards, deploys a special rescue team, Mall's military base request. That story you'll find on pages 2, 5, and 6 of the paper.
Now let's go to the business diary here. It talks about the economy, says Nigeria crumbles under insecurity, loses trillions of naira investments as experts advocate massive security investments. And that's what you find on page 2.
The Daily Independent leads this way. Tax hikes, rising costs drive decline in Nigeria's air travel. That is the top story on the front page of the paper, but just below at the bottom of the page you see that story. APC primaries, Tinubu intervenes to resolve nationwide crisis, orders suspension of planned protest by Iyaloja General. Lagos APC will follow national leadership's directives, or Jelabi. Those are the top headlines there this morning.
All right, let's go to Al Jazeera, Nigeria this morning. Says 2027, Tunde Bakar Islam's politicians says they are overly consumed with next elections. And that's the rider to that story. And yes, from the Al Jazeera, Nigeria.
Yeah, the Al Jazeera, Nigeria is the last paper we have this morning, and time for us to bring the issues to our reviewers. Let's start with Chris in Lagos. Chris, let's take a look at the Oyo abduction story. It seems to be on virtually every front page this morning. Tinubu orders full-scale action after 16 days of agony. Daily Asset, Abuja Inquirer, Blueprint, Standard Times, Daily Global. Even the leadership newspaper looks at it and says, Oyo school abduction, my 4 grandchildren, daughter-in-law, are in the forest. A woman cries out.
Well, better late than never. But if you watch carefully how some of the newspaper crafted the headlines, you see where it was stated or written that 16 days after. That was a deliberate casting of headline. What it means that it has taken us 16 days, it has taken the federal government 16 days, 2 weeks and 2 days, as it were, to be able to react to the issue of those abductions, which it's not good enough. Because if you look at it from the point of what we'll be reading, and also some of the videos that have been making the rounds from some of the captives, especially the principal, one of those principal, we realize that these people are really suffering within the forest. And more devastating for me is the killing of one of the teachers. The video was all over social media. I couldn't watch it, where he was practically, I just don't want to use the word that comes to my mind. So better late than never. But the problem I have is that we are talking of 14 days. If we know how these people operate, for 16 days, 16 days, these guys must have moved to a place where we're not able to reach. Thinking that they might still be in Oyo State will be a far cry from the reality, because when you listen to the testimony of most people that were abducted by these terrorists, what they do is that they continue moving them from one point to another. By now, I wouldn't know. I'm just guessing. I'm sure that definitely they are far, far beyond Oyo State. But the security agencies should know better. I'm sure they have their intel. And also policing is local. And I didn't see the state government involved in that visit yesterday. Anything that the federal government is going to do without the collaboration of the state government as well as the local government in that area, I don't know how fruitful those are going to be. But that is maybe it goes to show the high level of insecurity. Yes, the president has approved deployment of 1,000 foreign guards, and we continue to ask ourselves for how long. The one that happened, we are yet to get through with the one that's happened in Kwara State severally. I don't know if all those that were abducted in Kwara State have been released, not to the best of my knowledge. So what are we going to do? When we get another abduction, the president will approve another 1,000 or how many thousands of foreign guards to move in, and after that, what happens? And that brings me to the question of the issue of the issue that have been in the front burner all this while, where we've been talking about state policing, where we realized that the security, our security architecture, and the number of security people we have on ground now cannot be able to match the high level of insecurity that is prevalent across Nigeria. The police probably between the range of 400 and 450,000. How many do we have in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Air, and the rest of them for a country that is going to up to about 240 million? The solution to some of these problems is the issue of state policing. And I continue to ask, what happened to that bill? What happened to that law? How come that the federal government has not seen this issue too? So that this issue, we can be able to create more avenue for recruitment of more security agencies, especially within the local level, that can be able to handle some of these issues. Okay. Let's
come to Dr. Okewe here. It's quite tragic. I mean, one would say 1,000 forest guards. I mean, you also see parents saying caution, tread with caution. Yesterday, we saw all over the social media, one of the parents saying, as the military advanced, the kidnappers or the bandits said, that they would kill all of them, that please, whatever they do, they should also be wary of the fact that these people have their children with them and their lives are in their hands. How do you look at, one, the intervention 16 days after, and the call for forest guards?
It's even traumatizing considering this subject matter. You can see what the weather in Abuja is like this morning. These little kids and their teachers who find themselves in very harrowing climatic conditions where they are. I think that the president, having kept mum for this long, should just have kept quiet, give instructions behind closed doors, because I'm privileged to know efforts being made by the Nigerian security services, other the members of the security architecture. I know that there's been efforts ongoing, but the president coming out 16 days after to now speak and instruct is counterproductive in terms of how it robs the public of confidence, because it presupposes that it's after 16 days that the president is taking it seriously enough to give instructions and to release 1,000 forest guards. I am privileged to have the benefit of information to know that, yes, efforts had been made. There are things you really cannot put out there right now, but efforts are being made. That means the managers of the president and the president himself, if he chose not to have spoken or given these instructions publicly from the very first minute, that he didn't need to have done that 16 days after, because it will even dampen whatever confidence most of the people have in the ability of government to rescue the abductees. The truth of the matter is that this kidnapping terrorism, it's really a big concern and it's a global issue. My only pain is the fact that we are politicking over the lives of children and innocent teachers who found themselves as the next sets of victims that are abducted. The kind of vibes coming from both the federal government delegation that went to visit Oyo State and even the governor of Oyo State, they are regrettable, they are condemnable, because at a time like this, everybody should be uniting. The Oyo State governor has definitely enough intel and also has more knowledge of the territory than the federal government security agencies and all that. So they are supposed to be uniting. They are not supposed to be speaking at discordant tunes. Even if politics had divided them, when it comes to the issue of kidnapping of innocent citizens, including children, you expect that the political lines should be blurred, they should sheath their sword and prioritize the issue of safety. And that's the reason I also wrote about a nation trapped between politics and governance. And that is what we are going through now, and it's responsible for all of these different discordant tunes.
So you're saying that, sorry, because, one of the papers did say to the writer that the federal government accuses, the Oyo State government of recklessness. So you're saying that should not be the rhetoric at this time?
Yes, both sides are playing bad politics. They are not concentrated on governance. So you are not going to isolate one and say one is good, the other isn't. Both sides. Was it Michelle Obama who says if they go low, you should try to elevate yourself and show that you are more noble? If the Oyo State governor is getting it wrong, the federal government should get it right. You correct improper conduct with good examples, not politicking and dancing on the, misfortune of Nigerian children and their teachers.
Okay, some of our viewers are already weighing in on this as well. Victor Temba says, why are we always reactive instead of being proactive? Whenever school children are kidnapped, you see federal government making promises, and thereafter, another one happens without solutions. And Adabo John says, in a serious and committed country, you need to wait after 16 days of abduction before deploying a special rescue team. Why not do it immediately the incident happened while they are still nearby? And Mike Omovudu says that, Mike Omovudu says, insecurity, no, that's not the one I saw earlier on. Michael, well, let me go back to Chris now. Let's talk about another issue. I will come back to the comments from our YouTube channel after. Let's move on to another issue and take a look at the story on the front page of This Nigeria, which is the paper I have here with me, Daily Monitor and Business NG, talking about 2027. The battle ahead. Chris, the primaries of most of the political parties are almost concluded now, and this paper is talking about the battle ahead. What do you see?
Yes, Kunle, the battle ahead is before us. But quickly, before we do that, let us also just 1 minute on this issue of insecurity. Let me use this opportunity to commend the activities of the DSS. If you've seen some of the newspapers, the report that was released last night is that 5 of those behind that, the abduction of also school children
in Papiri, Niger State.
Yes, exactly, that they've been arrested. And what makes it even more interesting to me is that when I saw the pictures of about 15 AK-47 that was recovered from where our security agencies are getting it right, we need to commend them. And where they're not getting it right, it is our duty to also be able to put this in the front burner. So the DSS have been, under this current DG, has been doing a fantastic job. He does most of his job in the background, unlike what we've seen in the past. And they are achieving results. So I hope that this will serve as a link to making sure that other elements, non-state actors behind most of these abductions and killing of innocent Nigerians are created. But beyond that is that our prosecution of these people as well. There have been so many. Part of the problem we have is that we get them arrested before you don't get to hear anything again. The worst case, what we even hear is that where our government will not try to empower these people and tell you that they are repentant, they are not repentant.
All right, Chris, we need to go on to the next topic now because we have just 5 minutes left.
Yes, so that is just very, very key. Then on the issue of, it's good that the political parties have come up with their candidates. Some of them have polluted. I heard Adora saying that there was one of the papers where the pictures were displayed that there are no women on pictures. To the best of my knowledge, the last count, I think we have about 2 women already that have won.
Yeah, but they should make it on the front page as well, as headline.
Exactly. I totally agree with you, because I don't see when I saw those array of pictures, why the pictures of those two women were not so put there, because they are also candidates already. But let's wait and see what happens. What we are seeing is a situation where all the political parties are running towards making sure that they get their candidate. But the worst part of it for me is the last judgment or the last directive by court last week, talking about INEC and the timetable, where it was, the timetable of INEC was, the court annulled that and said that the parties have up to August. I heard again, I'm not too sure, I don't know, you guys can correct me, where another court said that INEC had that right to be able to fix the time frame. All these issues need to be quickly sorted out so that the political parties can now get ready and start moving towards 2027. But beyond that, there are so many other issues that is worrying our political elites in this country, and which is, as we've been talking about, the issue of insecurity and also economy. Very, very fundamental. What everybody is interested in now is those who are going for election 2027, where there's a lot of myriad of problems facing Nigerians, and think that those in government should be able to face that squarely. Politics should be in the back, it shouldn't be in the front burner, for goodness sake. But now everybody's talking about politics.
Tunde Bakare slams politicians, says they are overly consumed with next elections instead of...
Exactly. I totally align myself with that. That
was Al Jazeera saying that.
All right, let me. What's your take on the political battle ahead?
Well, also yesterday I took out time to write on the topic, the 2027 obsession. When you run an election cycle, when you run an election, you have a 4-year term to govern. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we seem to do anything close to governing with 2 years, and 2 years to the elections, we already close shop and focus on governance. If you see all of the furore with which politicians are obsessed with 2027, you'll think that the next month is when the general elections will take place. And that is really very sad. And it just speaks to the fact that politicians are really not focused on how to make the nation better for the ordinary man. They are just thinking about the next election. Leaders think about the next generation. Politicians, or I don't know if I should say political jobbers, which is the lot of Nigerians today, think about the next election. And that's the reason we've focused and forgotten totally about governance. And that's the reason you see discordant tunes here and there. It's very sad. Nigerians are in dire straits. We are talking about issues about survival. Labour is already kicking about minimum wage and talking about a 1 million naira demand. Governors are saying go to 100,000 naira, raise it from 70. If you check it, there's so much unrealistic behavior on all sides. 1 million naira demand by Labour, is it just so that to trigger a national debate? Government too, proposing 100,000 naira. Is that not also not just unrealistic, but actually abusive of the Nigerian worker? 100,000 naira cannot fill a Toyota Camry car for a week.
That's an advert.
You understand? I would write, cannot fill a car for a week. So you find that we have a dire situation where the living wage is not able. In fact, there was a time ASU would say in the 80s that my employer is a comedian. The wages he pays me are a joke. I think that government in this sense at state level, particularly also, because we focus a lot on the federal. States are earning a lot more money. States are doing a lot of businesses, but they still go are borrowing. They are not prioritizing the welfare of the people. Again, I argue, it is not in as much of the increase in salaries that will make life better, because if you look at it again, how many percentage of workers are employed by the government, both at state and federal level? So it's important we look at what are the things to work on, our public health sector, our education sector. If you work on it at a level where Nigerians can put their kids in these schools without having to pay cutthroats that they pay in private schools, then they would already have reduced drastically their expenditure. But transport alone even takes away the salaries of each person.
Let's
Chris.
Take a final word from Chris before he goes. Chris, this issue of the NLC demanding ₦1 million, while the state governments are offering 100,000 naira. A quick word before we go, because we got to go now.
This wasn't the first time that they are demanding $1 million. Don't forget, during the last negotiation, the NLC demanded about 1.5 million. And at the end of it, ended up accepting 70,000 naira from the federal government during the negotiation. So this is not the first time. But it is just as Dr. Lemmy said, the situation on ground gone beyond just 70,000 naira minimum wage. Even if the Nigerians are paid 350,000 or 500,000 naira as minimum wage currently, it still won't solve the problem of most of the workers. Just as you said, school fees alone, how much is school fees? Accommodation, over 100 to 150% increase in the last 1 year. Then you talk of food and every other thing. If the government can be able to put in place certain measures that can absorb some of these expenses, that has been done all across the globe, and that is in the area of subsidy. The issue of minimum of the wages that people receive will be never big. Look at health sector. If, despite the fact that Nigerians should register with NHS or NIS, whatever they call them, people still can't go to the hospital and get.
That means you're not registered.
Just ordinary paracetamol, that name any brand. How much is that if you have headache? Most Nigerians cannot even afford going to hospital these days. Even the ordinary local agbo, kule, the agbo that we are used to. Go and check how much a bottle of agbo costs now. Well, we hope that as we move towards 2027, these are some of the issues that Nigeria should look at in determining who is going to be the next president of Nigeria, whether we're training the current president or at
Is it just who becomes the next president, or who also becomes the next governor of the various states? People are voting.
Local government
chairman and everything. Because these are all governance positions, and these are where the places where decisions are made about what to do with the funds, the people's tax, and of course the funds earned from the various natural resources that are domiciled in the land that the people live on in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Chris. Have a great day in Lagos.
Have a nice week ahead.
I know you are in Lagos.
Have a lovely day and a great week ahead.
I hope the ram got to Alaja.
She did. Finally, she did. She got
fantastic.
All right.
Fantastic.
Have a great day out there in Lagos. Dr.
You too. Have a nice week.
Thank you very much, too, for coming on the program. We thank you for your time. It's time to move on.
And enduring the trauma all the time when we talk about the tragic issues.
Honestly, thank you.
All right. Time to break away from the newspaper review. And we will be taking a break. When we come back, it will be time for our very first conversation this morning. Stay with us.
Beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something billion MSMEs. The people are not saying.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us. The stories now break online. Don't Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT on air, online, online.
Get ready for a new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Raypa Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
Well, thank you for staying with us. Now we'll go to our first talking point. We told you earlier that we'll be looking at the World No Tobacco Day, and we do have our guest joining us virtually now, Akimbode Oluwafemi, Executive Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation, Africa. You're welcome to the program. Good morning.
All right, Akimbode, let's start from...
can you hear us? Please, can you unmute yourself?
I can.
Okay, good.
I can hear you very well.
Okay. Let's start from the objective of the World No Tobacco Day, of course, to draw attention to the dangers, the health risks of tobacco use, and, of course, to advocate for effective policies to curb global consumption. But when you look at that, doesn't that sound a bit weak, especially taking a look at the kind of frameworks that the tobacco companies and tobacco farmers have put in place to ensure that consumption continues?
Well, thank you very much. And that's why the theme for these years, which is unmasking deception of nicotine and tobacco products, is very, very apt. It's very instructive. Close to 2 decades, there have been lots of global efforts on how to reduce consumption of tobacco globally. But what we've seen over the years is that the tobacco companies continue to reinvent themselves. They continue to spread lies and misinformation about those products. They continued to obstruct governments from enforcing regulations and laws that works. But most importantly is that they have come up with what they call safer products, the electronic cigarettes, all manners of nicotine delivery mechanisms, the nicotine pouches, and heated tobacco products. And what scientists have been telling us is that regardless of the shape and manner of which products are being marketed or sold to the people, they remain extremely dangerous. Either the conversation about consumption versus vapor, or the issues of cigars and cigarillos that even made the news in Nigeria a couple of days back, all of them are very dangerous chemicals that are injurious to health. And that governments around the world and every stakeholders in public health should continue to unite, will continue to have regulations, and strengthen our laws where the laws are weak, and most importantly, protect our children and protect the future generation, as other countries are doing.
All right. I think another thing I want to ask is, first, The theme of this year is one, unmasking the appeal, countering nicotine and tobacco addiction. Can you really explain what this means in the real sense?
So when you look around us, you find that there are new tobacco or nicotine products. You know, come in Nigeria, you see a lot of the shishas, you see a lot of vapes. You see a lot of people putting out something that look very sleek, well designed, and they're trying to normalize those products. You see more kids, more young persons, smoking and vaping all over the places. You've seen a renewed glamorization of cigars, as we've seen in the recent festival that happened, and WHO is telling us that beyond those tech products, beyond the appeal, beyond the flavors, are products that are extremely deadly, that injures your lungs, that cause a lot of heart problems, that actually cause something called popcorn lungs, a form of bronchitis. And that people should not be carried away by how these products are marketed. Most importantly, there is a huge social media marketing, influencer marketing that, are promoting those products and are waking all of us to that deception that these products are safer. They are not in any way safer. They are also extremely dangerous. They are injurious to public health, and that people should be extremely careful, and government should take action. That is unmasking them. And I want to tell you that a couple of months ago, we did a report that we called the new smoke trap, because it's like a trap. And in Nigeria alone, we actually documented 700 plus products, these new and emerging products. Either it is the nicotine delivery or non-nicotine delivery or the nicotine pouches. All of them are flooded in the Nigerian market. Wherever you go, the kiosks, the supermarkets, entertainment centers, you see them, and then you see their, the liquids are sold recklessly without appropriate regulation. We have to draw the attention of the Nigerian government to the fact that Nigeria is again being flooded, and that rather than these products making people to quit smoking, what the tobacco industry is doing is to normalize them, glamorize them, and again create multiple entry points, multiple initiation points. There have been studies after studies that shows that a lot of people who vape, kids who start to vape, eventually end up in smoking. And so what the industry is telling us is not true, that these products are helping people to quit.
And, just staying with you, it just reminds me of, I don't know if it's called vaping or vaping, where people, smoke or inhale aerosol that is battery powered and heated without necessarily heating the substance. And, people are saying that is replacing smoking, is less dangerous. You find them more in, lounges, and there are no information about the health, effects of such, alternative smoking devices. How do you also look at that as one of the traps that you've just mentioned?
Absolutely, that's one of the critical traps that we ask the government to regulate. Nicotine delivery, they're basically nicotine delivery mechanism, whether it's aerosol or the rest of them. And in those things are very dangerous chemicals that are injurious to the lungs, as I've said earlier. And so the government, we are saying, should regulate them the way tobacco is properly regulated. The problem we have is that the Nigerian law was done like a couple of 2015, several years backwards. And within that time, the tobacco companies continue to mutate, continue to create some of these products. We must, again, pull these products under proper regulation, and we do recommend it should be regulated as tobacco products, which they are under the Ministry of Health. This is just not a product that you speak about safety and ISO and all of that. We've got to look at them in the real context of the harms that they cause to human health. And that also that if this country will admit these products, appropriate taxes, this year, marginal tax was introduced We say thanks to the government, but that's extremely less than 70% of what the WHO recommended for products like vaping and all these tobacco products that are so, that are common everywhere in Nigeria today. I mean, there's hardly any village you go to now in Nigeria and you don't see some of these products.
Akimbode, I'm wondering here because I was talking to someone some years ago about the dangers of shisha, and what she told me was, "Oh, Uncle K, it's not a problem. You know, it's perfumed. It's just perfumed smoke. It's just
flavored."
She said it's perfumed or flavored smoke, and that it's really not dangerous. And I was quick to tell her that if you spend 1 hour smoking shisha, you've inhaled at least 100 sticks of cigarettes.
Absolutely.
And she was shocked. Now, my question, I used that as an analogy. My question to you is this. Looking at the efforts over the years, the various measures that have been taken, your advocacy has been very strident, but it doesn't seem that we are getting much of a result, because when I look at the statistics now, roughly 2.9% to 3.6% of Nigerians, that's about 3.3 to 3.8 million Nigerians are smoking, adults smoking nationwide. So would you say that these measures that have been taken have been successful?
Well, Kunle, thank you very much. And I know we've had this conversation over very long, almost close to over a decade now.
More than that.
I would say we actually made progress, but we are not making progress at the speed that we want. Don't forget that there was a time that there was loud in Lagos or loud in Kano, Wet and Wide and all those kind of stuff. And there were musical shows all around Nigeria recruiting young kids into smoking. Thank goodness that doesn't happen anymore. Billboards around this country were taken by tobacco products. Advertisement on radio and on TV were full of tobacco products. We were able to get the National Tobacco Control Act 2015. And 2011, and then the National Tobacco Control Regulation 2015. But most importantly is that as we move forward, we block loopholes. The National Film and Video Censors Board introduced, a regulation that prohibits smoking in movies, that regulates, glamorization of smoking in movies, which is another way. So we try to plug the loopholes, but we should move faster. And that's why the theme for this year's World No Tobacco Day is very important. Telling government that this is another big issue that we need to act on. Smoking rate will have been extremely worse. Assuming nothing was done over the years with the viciousness that the tobacco companies actually approach this country. But again, let me say there are issues of enforcement.
Okay.
There are also very important things that we need to say that, I personally was extremely sad about the way and manner that a cultural festival that some of us really want to identify with and commend effort as, reviving our cultural values is being turned into a smoking arena. And I'll just say two things that people need to know: that there is National Tobacco Control Act that bans smoking in public places. And for media houses that have actually been sharing those, there is actually the NBC Act that prohibits glamorization of smoking. There's also the National Film and Video Censors Board Act. There is the APON Act. Ignorance of the law is not excused.
Akimbode, hold on. You yourself talked about the challenge of regulation. You've talked about all of these laws.
So
they've been there.
So I think,
and we are yet to see anyone prosecuted for smoking in public.
Okay. So number one, when the Ojude-Oba first Mr. Steez happened, we as CSOs went to the Ijebu councils. They have a council, and we spoke to them, what we call soft diplomacy. We also After that, I wrote to the Ministry of Arts and Culture, commending that these initiatives are happening, not only in Judea, but several others across the country. However, that should not be turned into arenas of flouting our laws as regards public health.
Okay.
Let me mention that cigarillos are covered under the Act. And so,
what about pipes?
Yeah, so one of the things that probably could happen is actually litigation. And we are studying that incident very, very carefully. We could approach this from several aspects, but the first mistake said that there are laws, and maybe possibly also advise journalists like myself that have been displaying some of these materials on the broadcast media to possibly exercise caution.
Okay, Akimode, I hear you. And, you know, anyone who sees a pack of cigarettes, I mean, should automatically see the sign on it or the message saying that all smokers are liable to die young. You know, just looking at that alone, you should be deterred from picking a stick to smoke. But people read it, open it, light it up, and still smoke it. And then you have over 30,000 related smoking deaths, you know, in Nigeria. And my question would be, how can we look at anti-smoking campaigns move from just unmasking tobacco companies to really about the health, you know, effects of smoking on people who smoke?
Thank you very much, my sister. Apparently, you've not seen a pack of cigarettes in Nigeria over the past 2 years. That one was arrested close to 2 or 3 years ago.
See it.
Yeah, so you will see on a pack of cigarette what tobacco causes. You see pictures of cancer. Those are part of the progress we've made. There are graphic health warnings on cigarette packs in Nigeria. Anyone that still carries smoking, kill without pictorials are illegal, and we expect the necessary authorities to do that. But part of what we're doing, back to your question, is to also we know the industry is recruiting the next generation. We are also recruiting the next generation of, you know, Nigerians that will stand for their health. We have what we call the National Youth Vanguard. We've got programs in sub-national levels now. You know, for a very long time, we've worked on national laws. We're still working on national laws. But now we're taking the message to sub-national governments. We have activities in a couple of states, close to the NGO community, couple of states, close to 5 states, Rivers, Imo, Ekiti, and I think about starting Osun and a couple of other states in the northern part of Nigeria. So we're taking the messages around, we're building coalition, and of course, media entities like yours have been extremely helpful since we got to this wave of tobacco control advocacy in Nigeria, and we remain extremely thankful for all the support we receive from the Nigeria, and we expect that we continue to get such support.
So let's get down to brass tacks, Akimbode. Whose responsibility is it to ensure that the figures that we are seeing in the statistics are kept low? Because 30,000 deaths every year from tobacco-related illnesses is just not good enough.
Thank you so much for that. The number one responsibility goes to the Nigerian government. And by Nigerian government, we say the Federal Ministry of Health, the federal government. We have the act, we have the regulation. That act should be effectively enforced. Budgetary allocation should be made. The budgetary allocation to tobacco control in Nigeria today is extremely low for a country of about 200 people. I think this year's budget is even lower than maybe 50 million or something like that. It was up and then it keeps coming down. I think about less than 20 million. And so we're doing advocacy that the National Assembly should increase budget for tobacco control. Look, UK suddenly announced endgame, whereby they want to cut off the age. I mean, children born from certain age will no longer. They want to completely phase out tobacco so that the next generation will be tobacco free. That's how we need to be thinking in our country, that things that has to do with public health, we don't joke with it. And this doesn't even cost government a lot. We just need the policies and then for government to implement those policies. Again, I will also say that people should take their heads into their hands. The economy is bad. this nation is going through some transformation and economic, I want to say economic crisis. So you don't spend your money again to go and buy debts. In my own local language, they say, "Logo for Oraku." You know, you think you are rich, you are glamorous, but you buy debt. I think people should know that these are very serious impacts on their health, on their lifestyle, and most importantly, when this happens, it's also impact on your loved ones. When you smoke, there is also the issue of secondhand smoke. Everybody was talking about the so-called Madame Steez, but they were not talking about this other woman that was desperately blowing off
Sitting
the
beside
smoke.
her, yes.
Do you understand? So people need to protect their own health and protect the health of their loved ones.
Okay, just before we let you go, talking about whose responsibility is to keep the numbers down. The Tobacco Atlas, I think the statistics are here. I don't know how recent it is, but it says the number of adult smokers in Nigeria, 15 years old, by 2022 reached about 3.2 million or above. And then you have women at 220,000. But then it further says that even 10 to 14 years olds, are caught smoking. I'll give you an example. The social media video went viral, I think it was 2022, where sets of young people in secondary school, JS3, were caught, via the CCTV, sharing cigarettes among themselves. So now, how do we begin to look at the school as a forum to sensitize on the dangers of cigarettes before they even make it into the adolescent or adult age for smokers?
So we just got a musical video, an upcoming artist, that actually featured a kid smoking. I mean, a lot of the time we investigate some of these things and we act. And thank you very much. There is something we call the it's called the National Tobacco Control Committee. That has all the stakeholders and ministries. And what that committee does is to bring the parastatals and MDs to discuss what they can do. And so there is responsibility of the Ministry of Education to see how they can step this down. There is a responsibility of the government to enforce the law that prohibits smoking and the sale of cigarettes near school.
Well, Akimbode, when we also look at all of these issues, tobacco companies declare jumbo profits. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Akimbode, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Great. So tobacco companies declare jumbo profits year in, year out. And of course, a portion of this goes into the coffers of government as taxes. So I don't know how easy it will be for government to shut down a stream of revenue. So what efforts are being made in that regard to ensure that government comes up with stiffer measures against tobacco consumption in Nigeria?
So, number one is to say that the taxes on tobacco products in Nigeria are so low, and it's as if we socialize the cost of tobacco use and the problem that are costs, the cost in terms of, the treatment, the diseases, government hospitals, families pay for that, and we privatize the profit. So they could declare humongous amount of profit. And so it's also not very true when tobacco companies say, oh, if you bring the law or the regulation, they're going to shut down. I just explained that they are even in some level of transition, that they continue to reinvent their products. So we also must continue to reinvent the laws to be able to catch up with them. But again, I would also make that same analogy I've been using for close to 10 years. Somebody comes to your house, says he's going to marry your daughter, but to marry your daughter will kill your wife and 2 of your remaining children. Tobacco kills. What we need to do is to ensure that we promote the alternative economy. When you don't spend your money on the bad product, you don't go to Third Mainland Bridge and throw away the money. You spend that money on a wholesome product. That sector of the economy will grow. Tobacco companies lies about the employment. They are not in any way employing up to 2% of what they flaunt they employ. We put under oath at the National Assembly, we realized, and they said that the biggest oil company in Nigeria is not even hiring up to 700 persons because all their factories are extremely automated. It's time for us to wake up from the smoke trap, as we call it, and the tobacco trap. The economies that are farming tobacco in the world, we all know them. Those are the economies depend on tobacco leaves. They are also the poorest economies in the world. The whole world is shifting from bad products. We can grow cassava. Nigeria's cassava is needed all over the world today. Okeogun people are shifting.
Okay.
There are actually no longer supplying raw materials to the factory in Ibadan. The raw materials are actually being imported, again draining our foreign reserve. And so we should think as a nation and effectively regulate these products that has become a trap as of today.
All right, it's a good place to leave it this morning. Thank you so much, Akimbode Oluwafemi, Executive Director, Corporate Accountability and Public Participation Africa, for talking to us today on the World Tobacco Day. Have a great day out there.
Thank you so much.
And no smoking.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, it will be Kakaaki Social O'Clock. Rena Obozege will be here. She has the IP, intellectual property rights to that name, Kakaaki Social O'Clock.
In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is the need for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata wise, revenue strata wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something billion MSMEs. It's equivalent of something.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us. In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The body have proven that the election must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can.
Hello everyone, it's a new week, a new month. Welcome to the month of June 2026. I'm Rena Obozege and this is Kakaaki Social. Adora is partying beside there is our best month. In 11 days, she's +1. But let's go to what's on the space of social media. President Tinubu has approved the deployment of 1,000 forest guards as effort intensify to rescue the students and teachers abducted from free schools in Orire local government area of Oyo State. A presidential delegation led by the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribado, arrived in Ogomosho on Sunday and proceeded to the affected communities. We had other members of the team include Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, Defense Minister Christopher Musa, Minister of Power Joseph Tegbe, and Presidential Aide Sunday Dare.
Incidentally, the issue of forest guards came up. he directed that we must establish for Oyo State forest gas of minimum of 1,000 from the first week of June. And we are going to do that immediately after we go back to Abuja. We are going to do it in collaboration with the state government. I'm going so much to acknowledge the role of the government. It's very well, good. And at the same time, the local communities. This forest gas will come from you. And we are going to do the right thing.
All right, let's take you to AIT Online Facebook page where we had shared that story and the reactions that are trailing it. We had one just at the start there. All right, let's begin with Tony Divine. It says, after you catch them, sew uniform for them, mount canopy, celebrate them and repentant and release them back into the society. Well done, sir. Reacting to that post right there. AIT Online to Iduguma Emmanuel says, and they are making the announcement for the bandits to be ready. He has a problem with that. Kenechukwu Nwosusi responding to our Facebook page at AIT Online. He says, the question I keep asking is, would you employ Tinubu as your manager if Nigeria was your company? A question he's asking. More thought from St. Charles Onyebuchi. It says, look at the way they are laughing and exchanging pleasantries as if they came for wedding ceremony to Fiakwa. And one more thought will be from Japheth Joseph. It says, so it's not army anymore. Now forest guard. Now so them tell just people say they go install CCTV till date. We still they wait. Absolutely. Maybe you will not be Amaka. And someone had asked them right there, why did you not use road? So that you will feel it as they are feeling it as well. But away from that, as efforts continue to secure the release of abducted students and teachers in Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makinde earlier met with families of the victims and renewed calls for state police. A grandmother to 4 of the children who doubles as the mother to one of the teachers mentioned that she feels naked without them. Elsewhere, the governor lamented that the current constitutional arrangement, which places security agencies under federal control, limits his ability to respond effectively to kidnappings and other security threats, despite being designated the state's chief security officer. Amid the crisis, Makinde also accepted the presidential nomination and went online to share that he's accepted to be the presidential candidate of the Allied People's Movement, APM, and shared the development on social media, a move that has sparked mixed reactions from Nigerians.
Body of being called the chief security officer, yet lacking constitutional control over the security agency needed to fully confront this threat. No governor should be placed in a situation where responsibility is placed on their shoulders, but the necessary authority is with them. As President of Nigeria, from May 29, 2027, I will work to reform our national security architecture so that states are no longer left dependent in moments of crisis.
All right, let's bring you in at this point, going under Governor Makinde's comment section. Emeka says, Seyi Makinde has spoken the hard truth. As a governor, you were called the chief security officer, yet the same federal government that gave you the title is holding the police remote control. Oyo is bleeding, but your hands are tied. The constitution protects bandits more than citizens. Enough is enough. We need state police now, or things will only get worse. Nigerians are no longer begging. We are demanding real reconstructuring. The blame game must end. And another thought says, coming from X also, Shezi Morning says, don't just waste your kobo. My small advice for you, small Oyo State, you can't safeguard. Now, mighty Nigeria, you won't protect you. Sounds like our brothers from Delta State right there. First Tokubai says, Tinubu is using insecurity to make Makinde look terrible as a leader because of his presidential declaration. Anyways, he was amongst the G5 that brought Tinubu in. In parentheses, it says, the monster you fed today, you feed today, will consume you tomorrow. That's how that user is reacting to that story right there. Meanwhile, we have a new video from Mrs. Alamu, one of the principals who is in abduction right there. As she's pleading that maybe negotiation and they have to be on same tables to secure their release safe and sound.
Some army was sent, and that has compounded our problems. It has added to our troubles. In fact, one of us has been picked that they are going to kill him because they use force. We are pleading with you not to force yourself into the bush, but please call them and dialogue with them so that the problem can be solved and we'll be able to go home alive. They have promised to kill all of us if any of the armies come into the bush again. Please, we are pleading with you. We are begging you in the name of God. Please, please.
All right, let's have more stories still in line with this, and it would be that this year's Ojude Oba Festival in Ijebu-Ode, Ogun State, has drawn mixed reactions amid the continued captivity of dozens of students and teachers abducted by gunmen in neighboring Oyo State. The annual age-long festival celebrated by the Ijebu people on the third day after Eid el-Kabir is a cultural event held to pay homage to the Awujale of Ijebu land, known for its colorful horse-riding displays, fashion, music, and parades by age-grade groups. However, critics argue that the celebrations this year came at a time when families in Oyo State are still mourning and praying for the safe return of Oyo kidnapped victims, and some netizens have described the festivities as insensitive. Others defended the event, insisting that the festival is a long-standing cultural tradition that could not have been suspended. We will take video reactions to this and then move on to other stories.
Children and teachers were kidnapped from a primary school in Nigeria, in southwestern Nigeria. And not too long after, people from that same zone went ahead with a partying festival, Ojude Oba. Like, you're telling me that children as young as 2 were kidnapped, and the bandits and the kidnappers have sent pictures and videos of how they were torturing those children. One teacher was beheaded, and after a few social media activism in our normal fashion of just calling out things for 2 seconds, a whole festival partying by Yoruba people, by Nigerians, still went ahead in that same zone that the kidnapping happened. Who has bewitched Nigerians?
This year's Ojude Oba is a disappointment, honestly speaking, because sincerely speaking, we are not ready in this country. It's as if nothing is happening in this country. And I'm seeing some leaders, our leaders attending this event. The president's son was also there too. And when people, this is what they don't say, bro. They don't care. See, one thing you pray for is that Nigeria should not happen to you, because once Nigeria happens to you, that is the end.
How is such a situation happening in Oyo State and they've not been rescued? And we were able to celebrate as Yoruba people. We were able to celebrate Ojude Oba in that grand style, and nobody could think that we should use Ojude Oba as an avenue to even talk about the situation more. Nobody could think that, oh, let's create maybe placards or do banners that we would put up or we would hold to, just talk more, express more about the situation in Oyo and to demand for the release of those people by any means possible from the federal government.
All right, those are your thoughts right there. We still have more reactions that are trailing the conferment of the Southern Kaduna Grand Commander SKGC Award on Nigeria's Minister of Defense, retired General Christopher Musa, at the Southern Kaduna Festival in Kafanchan. The organizers said the honor was in recognition of Musa's contributions to national security, peace building, and his representation of Southern Kaduna at the national and international levels. The award, as you can imagine, has expectedly baked conversations along the lines of timing amid ongoing security challenges in Nigeria. And that's this decoration ceremony going on there, bow and arrow, to say, oh, this is the armory when it comes to our own side of the country. Let's see how this meets you on the space of social media. Okeoma Emeka says, why can't Tinubu, his ministers and special advisors at times pretend that they are pained by the plight of the masses suffering in poverty because they are ineptitude, kidnapped victims in captivity, etc. For Dal, it says, look at a man whose house is on fire, and instead of saving his life and properties, he's busy looking for rats that are escaping the inferno. Shame, you get they shame me. You know, shame you get, they shame me. Lucas says, this man, before he joined this tyrant government, I used to like him. Imagine kids, they inside bush, baba they wear bow and arrow. Chai, Musa, I once loved you. It looks like an ex right now. For Suleiman Bashiri says, this one just they enjoy retirement. Nothing concern them with defense again. Person no fit solve insecurity. As a general, na minister, he go use solve am. And he's laughing out loud. All right, at this point, we have the FCT Minister, Nyesom Wike, that has mocked activist and FCT senatorial aspirant Aisha Yesufu on the platform of the NDC following her loss in the primaries, reacting to Yesufu's earlier remarks that he's merely an appointee and not a factor in her political ambition. However, Yesufu has maintained that no valid primary election was held in the primaries, insisting that everything went wrong with the system, but she would be coming back in 2031. Well, in case you missed that, what Wike is reacting to, I will be starting with that video of Aisha Yesufu saying Wike is nothing to my political ambition in the FCT, and then Wike's reaction would follow.
To contend with.
I don't
you have an Aduda to contend with.
I don't have a Wike to contend with because that's an appointee. I'm not in the business of appointment.
No, because you don't think that he was deeply involved in the politics and the election of the FCT in the council election. You don't think that he will be deeply...
general election.
You don't think that he will be involved in this?
This is a general election.
So you're saying...
Wike as an appointee, I have no business with him. He's an appointee.
You saw what happened in the NDC. There's one woman who said, who gets an appointee of the government, you to speak grammar, ordinary primary of NDC. And what happened? It is easy for people to talk blah, 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 blah. When they enter into those media houses, they begin to churn out data. You don't know where it comes from. Now the time for data has come. Okay, what happened? Fa.
All right, let's see how you're reacting to this. Aisha Yesufu, of course, you definitely trust her to respond swiftly. And she started with Ovevekuve. Well, just to help you, in Esako, when we say Ovevekuve, it simply means like things don't scatter, it don't scatter Gabadaya, it don't scatter finish. He said, I say one man that did not win primaries in 2022, who even lobbied for running mate and still was not chosen, then ran to do boy for a fellow man like him and ended up destroying a party that once largest in Africa and was recently disgraced by a young military officer. He's talking about a woman in NDC. She continued. He said, let me wait. Make that man get liver. Mention him. Then the man doing boy because he has to be in power to have authority. We know those of us from Kurukuru Empire of Edo State in South, know the grovel. It says, if them born Wike well, make it call my name with his full chest. What Tambua did him in 2022 will be child's play. You have been doing politics for donkey years, yet you were outplayed so foolishly. That's what she said. She continued, but we take just that. Sex Right said, Wike, outlining his achievement. Local government chairman, minister for state, two-term governor, current FCT minister, Aisha Yesufu, convener of Bring Back Our Girls. Though Wike lost primary election and the party paid dearly for it, but you weren't even allowed to contest. They schemed you out. No political value, no capital against Aisha. NBA then says Wike that lost PDP primary to Atiku in 2022 and also lost the VP slot to Okowa is now laughing Aisha. More reaction. Somik says that's democracy. People can lose and accept their loss, but you politicians will force yourselves on the masses. That's why Aisha will always be better than you all bloody politicians. Aisha says she's coming in 2031. All right, we have the former Minister of Transportation, Chubuike Rotimi Amechi, who is also trending this morning for describing himself as one of Nigeria's simplest politicians. Amechi, while speaking on integrity in public office, which today said he's 80% of the time serious, that he does not steal. From his disclosure, the question has become, what happens during the remaining 20% of the time when you say you do not steal? We'll listen to him and then your thoughts will come in.
When they meet me and they see how simple and ordinary I look and I am, yeah, it sweeps them off their feet. Right. So you start to say Amechi. And then when you date with me, that Amechi is the same person like a ordinary man on the street. Mm-hmm. When I say I won't steal money, 80% of the time I'm serious.
So 20% of the time, what's happening?
You really need to swear to God.
Okay.
To say in your life, because you see, transparency is not an easy thing in terms of corruption. Mm-hmm. Have you knowingly gone to take people's money? No. Okay. But some of the things you have, you really have to say the office will have helped you to influence it.
All right, let's see how you're reacting to this on X. TG Ogunleri says, when I say I won't steal, 80% of the time I'm serious. Baba is telling us that he will reduce his stealing rates to just 20% compared to what you are saying today. Thief na thief, oh. Even if you wear a white suit, thief go steal, go thief. More thoughts to this. Keke Rider says, not be your wife, they collect 4 billion naira monthly from NDDC. That's Wike. Wike had said that. If you're looking for the story, please search that. No fake news. Amechi is a smart guy. He keeps hammering the I won't steal line in almost every interview, both directly and indirectly. My suspicion is that he thinks the anti-corruption branding that worked for Buhari will also work for him. But he's mistaken because Nigerians are a lot wiser now. Tell us how you plan to tackle inflation, insecurity, unemployment, power, education, etc. Explain the policies in every plain language, not just the moral credentials. The era of trust me, I'm honest, should be behind us. That's what No Fake News says in reaction to that. Cutesy, it says 20% of undefined behavioral display, meaning nothing is guaranteed with him. Trust him at your own risk. When a leader doesn't think properly before speaking, there is a huge problem. So that user says. And finally, we'd like to highlight the video of a family in Ebonyi State that has been thrown into confusion after the corpse of their 94-year-old grandmother allegedly disappeared from a mortuary days before her burial. Relatives had arrived to retrieve the body, but were informed that it could not be found. The situation, according to her granddaughter, worsened after the mortuary attendant fled after presenting a substitute body.
My grandmother is sleeping. My grandmother is sleeping. And these police people, they came to arrest the person who are responsible. And the police officer ran. We are not seeing the lady involved.
All right, so that's a granddaughter right there. We're not sure how that is going to be, but reactions seems that people have sometimes experienced this as well, and I'm wondering how that could have been. But everyone, thank you so much for being a part of Kakaaki Social this morning. I'm Rena OBO on social media, and we are AIT_online. I'll see you again tomorrow. Please stay with us. The program has not ended.
How you come?
With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
Kakaaki, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
How you come?
With the shortage of brand new aircraft delivery across the world, Emirates decided to go it alone and refurbish over 200 of our existing planes at our own engineering facility. This makes it the largest retrofit program on the planet. For our customers, it means even greater consistency of a world-class product.
The delegates drawn
Politics and Power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies to be held to account? Or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Get ready for a bold new chapter in political discourse. The conversations that matter most are stepping into the spotlight like never before. Political platform, the hard-hitting, no-holds-barred program you have trusted on Raypower Radio is making a powerful move to television. Tune in to Africa Independent Television, AIT, as political platform debuts on your screen, bringing deeper analysis, sharper debates, and the voices shaping our nation's future right into your screens. From policy and politics breakdowns to real-time discussions with key stakeholders, this is more than a program. It is where opinions are tested, truths are uncovered, and the people's voice is heard. Join seasoned hosts and expert guests as they tackle the issues that define our democracy. No filters, no distractions, just real talk. Political platform now on AIT, 9 to 10 a.m. every weekday. Stay informed, stay engaged, be part of the conversation.
Gender Agenda is where policy meets people. It's a bold policy literacy platform bridging the gap between decision makers and women across every sector. From parliament to politics, from leadership to governance, from peace to economy, development, human rights, from Nigeria to the rest of Africa, Gender Agenda amplifies voices too often excluded, ensuring every voice counts. Through compelling storytelling, social impact dialogue, thought-provoking documentaries, town halls that lean on data and research, we raise the bar. Gender Agenda, every Friday, 4:30 p.m. on AIT and on AIT's YouTube channel live. My name is Adora Sydney Jack, and this is Gender Agenda. Gender Agenda. Women rising.
In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the election must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
GTBT, whatever.
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. In today's global economy, information is everywhere, but insight is rare.
Because of the high rate of fuel, the cost of commodities, cost of everything in this country is high.
This is unacceptable because Nigerians cannot be made to suffer every time.
So, where do you turn for clarity? The right questions.
What is the need for Nigerians? Let's really break it down. Income strata-wise, revenue strata-wise for companies. What are some of the inhibitions that are not making trade work for all?
The real answers.
Stimulus package must take a different shape beyond what we have seen in sharing of rice, sharing of money.
Nancy brings it to you on Moneyline with Nancy.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Moneyline with Nancy.
Clear, well-researched conversations focused on what truly impacts you.
Is it that we don't know the number of MSMEs we have in the country, or we don't know where they are?
I don't think we can identify 40-something billion MSMEs as equivalent as a country.
Nigeria has the policy framework in place to be a leader on this approach. You can make farmers bankable.
Moneyline with Nancy now airs 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Weekdays, live on AIT and online. If it matters to the economy, join us.
The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT, on air, online, online.
Get ready for a bold new chapter.
Thank you for staying with us. It's now time for us to go to our second talking point. And interesting, yes, indeed, it's World Milk Day, and that's why we're looking at it. And I mean, what does this mean in the actual sense? And I think we'll have our guest who will do justice to that. Victor Egbon, Director, Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, is here. Good morning. It's great to have you.
Good morning.
And we also have Muhammadu Abubakar, MD Abubakar for short, President, Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association. Good morning. It's good to have you.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Well, I heard you making a comment that we should have had milk in front of us instead of these mugs. And, well, maybe you should start by telling us why you think what we should have in front of us is cups of milk rather than mugs of tea and coffee. Because I also hear that for people who are above the age of 40, going to their 50s, middle age, you shouldn't be drinking so much of milk. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, You said Director, Federal Ministry of Livestock. Actually, I'm a director in one of the departments in Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, and that is Department of Ruminant and Monogastric Development.
Yes, we did say that in our opening statement this morning. I have it here.
So the reason we are here today, today is World Milk Day, and this is a day that is set aside globally to celebrate milk, the importance of milk and dairy product. And that's the reason why I said you shouldn't be having any other cup in front of you other than a cup of milk, because of the importance that it has to us as humans, especially children, women and pregnant women, because of its nutritional benefit that it has in terms of it has protein, has calcium, and of course so many minerals that is very vital to our health and growth and development.
So when you talk about growth and development, milk, how does it help us?
Okay, it contains all the essential amino acids, that is protein, that is required for growth. And you know, when you talk about the nutrients, you talk about carbohydrate, you talk about protein, you talk about vitamins, and you talk about minerals. So milk, as it is one of the most natural source of all these nutrients. That's why it's actually very important. And the essence of today is actually to promote its consumption and production locally as well.
Okay, let me come to MD. I mean, when people talk about milk in Nigeria, the first thing that comes to their mind is the branded milk, those with names on it. And I don't know if they've ever considered, non-popular brands that are not so expensive. And how do we look out for also alternative milk supply outside what we find on the shelf? Because I'm asking this because people who do not have the money to go for branded milk, what is the alternative for them? Because you just talked about the importance of milk.
Thank you very much. I think all over the world, the cheapest source of food is milk. And so it shouldn't be expensive. If it's expensive anywhere, then there's a problem, probably in the value chain, or the government policy is not directed at making it easily or readily available to the common person. All over the world is the easiest source of nutrition. It's one of the best way to impact society for those at the bottom of the pyramid, because it's one of the areas that you can make money easily. So milk to be expensive is an abnormality. Then that's why we're talking about local production encouragement. It's only when it is produced locally and there's no foreign exchange component in its production or availability, then it will be cheap, because it's naira, and you don't have to, for heaven's sake, spend forex to rear a cow and to milk it. So where does the expenses come here? So most of the component that makes it very expensive has everything to do with non-milk, but nothing to do with milk.
Absolutely. And I think you've just taken the next question right out of my thoughts, because when you look at the fact that Nigeria imports at least $1.5 billion of milk yearly, one would ask, what will be the best way to rechannel that funding into local production?
Yeah, the best way is import substitution. We've been relying on imported milk in all forms, and it will take time for us to even prepare our tongue to face the reality. Most of the type of milk you're talking about is not sold in the countries that are producing this milk. It's the fresh milk that everybody have access to. So, but unfortunately, we are not used to it, and it will take time for us to condition our own test buds to be used to the real thing. So, if that's the case, then we need to start immediately. And so I'm not saying that we should ban importation, but you should substitute importation over time. It's three tranched to it. One, we are saving foreign exchange. Two, there's transfer technology. And three, we're making it readily and cheaply available to the common person. So I think this is the only way. So import substitution also does not happen in the air. It has to follow a process. And this is what I think the government is currently encouraging, backward integration. So backward integration is a process where you import milk, but you go back to start producing locally. Rear the cows here, start producing the milk here, and start blending it into what you import. So if you start 10% local components, over time, maybe at a certain period, it rises to 20%, 30%, 40%, until you achieve either 80, 90, or 100%. And that's when you say that, okay, yeah, at that level, you're not talking about foreign exchange. So the $1.5 billion you're talking about will be rooted back into the economy.
Thank God Victor is here. So how do we achieve that? He's talked about import substitution and then backward integration.
Okay, actually, the government, that is one major thing that the government is actually working on to ensure that import dependence on dairy and milk and dairy product is actually reduced. And to do that, like you said, because of that, what brought about that import is because we are consuming more than we produce. So we have now, through the foresight and the commitment of our principals, talking about the minister himself, Meha Muta, and our permanent secretary, Dr. Chinyere Kujobi, that we have to be deliberate about it to increase the production of the productivity of our local, cattle. That is true breed improvement, because, like what we are producing locally, our local production, the capacity they have is not more than 2 liters per day. But with breed improvement, we can achieve 10 and above, up to 20. So to that effect, we have commenced the procurement of exotic breed to improve our local dairy production. It's all about productivity, enhancing productivity, so that we can now produce more. By the time we produce more, we can now begin to consume, thereby bringing down that a huge amount of 1.5 billion. And it will now be used for the development of the sector. It will create more job, of course, and our people will begin to consume more healthy.
So I hear you talk about, exotic breed. I mean, you talked about Nigeria producing 1 to 2 liters as against maybe a country like Kenya and South Africa that does about 20 liters a day. Beyond just, the purchase of exotic breed, the breed that we have here, is there any perhaps research that shows crossbreeding can also help?
Yes, that is exactly why I talk about breed improvement. Okay. When you talk about breed improvement, you have to bring the exotic breed that has that capacity to produce above 20, 25, 50 liters per day. Ours does just below that, about 2 at most. But now with improved nutrition and health care, and of course crossbreeding, we are hyping it up. So that it is crossbreeding. The genetic makeup of those exotic breed, you now cross it, you now have what we call, the first, the F1, the first generation of that will now begin to produce much more, better. Of course, it takes advantage from our local breed that has adapted locally, disease resistant, it is hardy. Then we'll now take the genetic makeup of the exotic breed that is known for producing higher. So that is what that is aimed at, at doing. And also to even, add to that, we now have a policy, a national dairy policy, and there's an implementation framework that has been validated, which I have here, how to bring it here so that you understand the import of what we are talking about. This is a national dairy policy implementation framework. All the strategies to enhance local milk production is there. And this very document is one of the things that the minister is going to unveil officially today, because all the stakeholders in the dairy sector are there. And this is a document that has all the strategy that will enhance the productivity of our local dairy and animals.
MD, I see you looking at that document. Have you seen it before? Or have you heard about it?
Yes.
Yeah, we're part of the right from concept to its actualization. So as you rightly pointed out, that's what I was talking about when I spoke about import substitution. There should be a deliberate effort, and I think this is one step towards that. Again, I forgot to mention when we were talking about milk. Of course, there are cheaper brands of milk in the market, but I think what we did again, apart from policy, is education by the government. Anybody knows what you are consuming. You shouldn't take A under the pretense that you are taking B, just because you are not knowledgeable about it, and it's very, very, very dangerous.
Let me jump in there.
Yeah.
And I took notes of three things I want you to break it down for us. When you look at the kind of consumption of the milk Nigerians consume, most Nigerians consume today, it's either powdered milk or evaporated milk. So what's the difference between those? Because when you talk about even the fresh milk that Nigerians consume, it's mostly sold locally by the Fura de Nunu sellers around, mostly. It's only in the last...
Yeah, so let me enlighten you on that. Fura Nunu actually is not milk, it's fermented milk. It's a yogurt kind of milk. So hardly you find somebody hawking fresh milk. Mostly fresh milk is used as a raw material to produce lots of things, because as I always say that milk has the derivatives of milk are much more than the derivatives of crude oil. And so most people don't want to waste, if you like, that fresh milk. They would rather remove cheese, butter, lot of yogurt, lot of things coming out of it rather than selling it wholesome. Until it's in abundance before you start going to selling that fresh milk. Having said that, I think the categories of milk that we need to talk about, we shouldn't even be more concerned about evaporated and powdered milk. That is when we reach the level of producing fresh milk in the market that we talk about that. But for now, even the powdered milk and the evaporated milk, let's understand what it is and take the real thing. When I want to, the brand, the owners, the brands, they don't pretend, they make it very clear. It's left for you to understand. But if you are not knowledgeable, even if it's written, it shows on your face, you don't know what that means. For instance, let me give you an example of evaporated and powdered milk, the brands in the market. Very clear. There's what we call fat-filled milk, and it's written there, filled milk. You see the same brand, but one is filled milk, one is full cream milk. So what's the difference? Most people don't just say, probably for some reason, there's a company producing two types of brands from the same company, same stable, but this is a filled milk and this is a full cream milk. Okay, full cream milk is the real milk. It has all the components of the milk in its original form, but just turned into powder. Evaporated milk that is full cream is equally the same milk, but just evaporated, just the way evaporated, put on a fire until the water is reduced, it becomes viscous, it's yellowish. That's what it is. But the main difference is filled milk, where the main component that makes it a milk are removed and replaced with vegetable fat derivatives. So in that instance, you've lost the essence of milk to an extent. There are some elements that remain, but the major element that made the milk has been removed to produce cheese, to produce other items. Then you are left with milk that has none of this. And now the system applies. Okay, let's look at the vegetable fat that are similar to this and infuse into the milk. Then you have your filled milk. So there are a lot of brands that actually they're just filled milk. Then the worst case that is coming now is creamer. Creamer, though, there's no pretense. There's not even any place that is written it's a milk. And it floods the market. It's cheap. It gives the impression that it's milk. It looks like
nobody
milk.
really knows what the ingredient that makes
the ingredient is very clearly written that it's not milk.
But people don't even read them. They just see.
So that's that's why I talk about education. Actually, there are a lot of. I remember some countries from Europe some years back. They had interviews with me. They saw it as something that needs to be really looked at. It doesn't matter what you if the person you are presenting this product does not have the education, then you should be held to account for giving an impression. Because the common person, yeah, exactly. If you're taking the milk and you know what you're doing and you go and take decision, an informed decision to take that brand of milk, filled milk, based on knowledge, there's no issue.
Let me
So
quickly
that is
jump
where
to
the
Victor.
problem is.
You've raised a very pertinent issue, and I think that's why these conversations are important. The thing for this year is, of course, celebrating women farmers. When you look at the World Milk Day, and we know that the theme had to be modified to some extent because of course, countries like Nigeria, whose women are not really smiling. I have nothing to celebrate. Now, Victor, when you think about dairy production, the whole chain of operations when it comes to dairy milk, women play a central role in it. But how far have the women in Nigeria fared in that chain of action?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Looking at that team, actually, you see that an aspect was added to it, celebrating women farmers, right? Promoting consumption of fresh milk for a healthy nation. Women are actually, I would say, unsung heroines or heroes of the dairy industry. They are doing quite a lot. More than 60% of dairy processing and all that is actually done by women. And they are more or less like actually not recognized. So that is why that team was actually very key to recognize them, that we know even when we don't seem to be saying it, that what they are doing is actually being recognized.
Okay.
And for our women, right, we see them. You talked about the MD talked about the local women selling, fura and all that. We don't see men doing that. It's women that do it and all that, and also with their children. So the importance here is to ensure that apart from they doing what they do, it is equally very relevant and pertinent that we realize the fact that they are the ones that are with the children. And it is also very important that children get this milk because of, like I said before, what the import is it to them in terms of their growth, their brain development, because all the minerals and vitamins that are needed for their growth and development is very, they are contained there. And of course, women also, pregnant women, because of the baby they carry, they equally need that. So this team is a way of trying to recognize their, the importance or the role that they play in the industry.
All right, gentlemen, we have to leave it at that this morning. Thank you so much for coming on. I wish we had more time to talk about this because milk is something that is of utmost nutritional importance to not just Nigeria, the entire world. But we thank you for your time this morning. We've been speaking with Victor Egbon, the Director of Ruminant and Monogastric Development at the Federal Ministry of Livestock Development, and MD Abubakar, who is President, Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association here in Nigeria. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
I still remember my auntie in Warwickshire. Milk vans will stop and bring you fresh milk in the morning. But that will be the day in Nigeria. We're looking forward to that.
All right, time to go on Kakaaki, the African Voice. We thank you for spending time with us this Monday. Join us again on Tuesday for another edition of the program. My name is Kunle Adewale. Have a great day. Whatever you do, wherever you go, please stay safe.
I'm Adora Sydney Jack. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.